Alright everybody, today we're going to do the alternator on the 924 Turbo. It's actually a pretty simple alternator to replace in comparison to the non-turbo. The non-turbo is located underneath where the turbocharger would be on this car. It's a little bit more difficult to get to, and this one, it's a top-mounted alternator, so it's a lot easier to do. So first off, to get to the 924 Turbo's alternator, we have to take the airbox out. And this airbox is not really held in at all. I'm missing some bolts, so we'll get through. These straps are pretty important. This one is that I'm throwing to the side here is pretty crusty. It's an original. I found it in the engine bay. This one, it's a little hard, is brand new. 9 to 8 straps probably would work. I have one in the basement from when I parted a car out. So I'm kind of lazy. I just lift this up into the side here, and just to get it out of the way. This, since it's not bolted down, just pops right out. Air filter here. So you can see spiders have already tried to move in again. And I'll just set that to the side, and then fish the strap out that dropped off. You can see it here, and good to go. So to get to the alternator, you can see it now. It's pretty much just in the open. Now to remove it, I'm going to bring this up here. There's a bolt down below. Let's see here. It's behind that V-belt. I'm going to zoom in just a little. That is a Allen head key. Behind it is a 12 or 13 millimeter bolt. Then you undo that bolt, which is the tensioner bolt, and it pops right out. I'm going to move the camera to a better angle, or a different angle, so I can get in and work on it. There we go. Pan you out just a hair. So first off, pulling the connections off is pretty easy if you have the right tools. I like Craftsman wrenches, but everybody loves Snap-on, and I'll probably buy Snap-on tools someday when I can afford them. So just unthread the main power lines here, and I will need to make a trip to the toolbox to get a 10 mil, and I believe this other bolt is an 8 mil, which I actually have in my 928 right now because I just did some work on it this morning and did film. So that's about it. Right now I have the 928 here at the house. I like to rotate cars. Oh gosh, I rotate weekly. I'll have the non-turbo for a week, and then I'll rotate to the 28. And I keep the 28 at my parents' house. My dad likes to drive it from time to time. It's just a fun car. It takes him back. Shoot, it takes me back, even though I wasn't alive then. So sometimes you have to get yourself in kind of weird finagle positions to do a lot of these jobs, and you kind of have to go blind right now. Just kind of had to stand back. It can certainly be a little bit hard on your body in some positions that you have to kind of work yourself into to get these cars, and you'll definitely feel in the afternoon. So I just set everything to the side here, and the connections are free, and it's off. So to get to the other bolt, you just kind of have to twist the belt out of the way. And let's see if we get the right one. Yep, perfect. Just work it in. Oh, maybe not one size up. That'd be it. I'm having trouble with speed gents. Just give me 1 second and I should have it. And there it is. Just had to find the right Allen key socket. It is a 6 millimeter Allen head socket. And what you'll do is you'll take the wrench and put it on the back of the bolt. In this case, it's a 13 millimeter, not a 12. So you put it on the back side where it threads through and loosen it up. Now comes the fun part of pushing that bolt through all the way and making sure you don't drop washers like I just did. Okay, so I worked that one out a little bit. I'm going to untension the front tensioner now. And I'm going to need a 32mm socket. So I've got 13mm socket, 13mm wrench, and broke it free. Just use your hands if you can. And then there you go. Now what I like to do is I like to put everything back together. I like to thread the nut with its bolt back together and set those to the side over here. And this just pulls right out. And again, it's not. Thread it back together, and I will find the washer in a little bit. Gotta go grab a 10mm. The 10mm is for the ground on the alternator. It actually is more important than you would think. Grounds are always important. Clean it. You can recreate these grounds. It is nothing fancy, it's just a copper uninsulated. I believe you can buy them off eBay, but I can't remember. I haven't had to buy a new one. This one might be a little south, it's kind of crumbly. Alright, and it's out. Now, how I do it on this car, because the belt is kind of tricky, is I tilt forward and then up and up. Now the alternator that I'm putting on is a used alternator I got from a guy up north. Actually, I think he's on the East Coast. Can't really remember. And it is a good tested unit. It's just used and it has the appearance of being a used alternator. So getting it all to fit can be a little bit of a hassle, but then I gotta make sure I get my belts on everything correctly. Now it is the inverse, so just tip the alternator forward a little bit. Everything's mounted up and you're good to go. So you grab your bolt, your long one here. Set it back in there. You might have to lift and kind of wiggle around. And you're good to go. I'm going to have to find that washer. Which, that got thrown in the unknowns of the engine, which is always fun. And then tensioner, bolt, back, and nut on. Let's see where I see that washer. Let me get a long screwdriver and I'll fish it out. And you hear it drop. I keep a large chunk of cardboard. TV boxes are great for this, especially if you rent a property. You don't want your landlord being upset about you getting their garage covered in oil, antifreeze, and other fluids. At the same time, sometimes it's just inevitable, and it just happens. And we all get it, because we've all been there. You kind of have to blindly thread stuff on. It just happens. Okay. Set the tension by hand a little bit. It's not hard, but not easy. What I always like to do is tighten a little bit so it's tight, but it's not tensioned very well. So tension it slightly, and then tension the bottom. We'll tighten the bottom. Excuse me. So that bottom bolt is what you want. Really tight, so it doesn't really move a whole lot. You still want some movement, but not a ton. So it's just the inverse. You guys might say, Dan, why are you showing the inverse too? Well, because I want to, and it helps add a little bit more content to my videos. Alright, so that's tightened pretty good, but it still needs to be tensioned. I actually need to loosen it just a hair. So, like I said, you don't want it too tight, but you don't want to over-tighten it. There we go. So there, I tightened it by hand. It's not the best, but it works. As for the main power and main power and the other wire, the blue wire is I believe it's called the rectifier wire, but I could be wrong. It sends signal that you're getting charge. Okay, little nut for the other one, and the alternator is finished, and all I have to do is put the airbox back in. Oh, and don't forget that we have to do the ground wire. Let's do that while I'm here and thinking about it. And then I just dropped a bunch of tools, because I had them on the bumper. Okay, I grab the socket that I dropped. Alright, and the new alternator is in. I will probably scrap the old one since they're not rebuildable. I wish they were. They are a genuine Bosch alternator, but I tried to have it rebuilt for my non-turbo, and I was SOL, so I had to buy a new one when I did that cars. That was before I was doing videos. Alright, and just fold this lid over. Get this boot in place. I won't tighten this boot down because I probably still will be removing the airbox. a little tricky. There we go. And strap. So this strap is the good strap, which I want over here. It's all a little difficult to manipulate into position. There's that. This is just a heat tempered barbecue paint that I put on this. It's not original. It was pretty rusty, and it just looks a lot better. Probably should have put a gloss on it. Then I'll use the original strap that's on its way out. And there you have it. That's a complete alternator swap on a 924 turbo.